down the hall. I will be helping out this week to get you your lessons. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 parts of a map. And after we finish that, there'll be some assignments that are posted on Google Classroom. Those assignments will include the notes that you will need. It's the slideshow that I'm going through. There will also be some other activities that you can do in Google Classroom. Without any more said, let's go ahead and get started. With maps, we have 5 parts. Now, you should have learned most all of this. My kids go to the elementary school. They know the 5 parts. This is going to be a little bit of a review, but also I'm going to throw some 7th grade stuff in there that might elevate your knowledge of the 5 parts of a map. Our very first part of a map is the map title. So you can see here that it says on this map, its title is Ohio River and Western Railway. When I was in school, our school had a map making division. And I worked at that map making division just to earn extra money for college. Almost all maps are still printed out, even though you can look at them digitally or on a computer. They're much easier to look at when they're printed out. So oftentimes I was sent down to the map room. I was given a title of a map, and these maps are stored in really huge tubes in like almost like a warehouse. So you can think of like Sam's Club or Costco. And I would have to climb up these shelves and look at the tubes to find the names. So if you don't put a name on your map, people aren't going to know where it is. I would never be able to find them in that warehouse. But also, if we look at like digital maps today, if you don't know the name of the map, you can't even Google search it. Or if you don't have a name, your map is not going to get searched. So the map title, that's our first map part. So we have one so far. It's the map title. Next, this is the map key. If you had your room, some of your rooms might already be like this. Everything is dumped out into the floor. There's no clothes into the drawers. There's stuff laying everywhere. It's kind of what my kids' rooms are like. But at any rate, if I ask you to find one thing, it would probably take you a while. You don't know where it is, and there's so much stuff in the way that you can't find what you're originally looking for. A map key is designed to keep a map really, really clean. For example, if I have a map of the United States and everywhere there was a mountain, I'd have to write the word mountain. Eventually, I would have the word mountain stretching into places where there's no mountains. You wouldn't be able to read anything because the word mountain is written over and over and over and over. So to keep this map really, really clean, we use symbols. And if we use a symbol on a map, for example, you can see my cursor here. If I go over here and I want mountains to be a triangle, I put that on the map where there are mountains, but then I have to come over here to the key and I also have to write mountains. All right, so whatever symbol I put on a map, I then have to go to the key and put that symbol there. So if we go through here, this person has used like a dollar bill to represent the bank. I can find that over here. They've used a tree to represent a park instead of an actual tree. That'd be really important because if you didn't put that in the key, most people just assume there's a tree there, not a park. You can see this person has used a milk carton and a sandwich to mean food or I imagine some sort of restaurant. They've used a shopping bag to mean store. If we go over here, we see that a dirt road has a brown dashed line, a bridge, 2 parallel lines. Capitals are universally almost always a star. So you can see that this person has put the symbols on the map. The map looks nice and clean. Over here, it looks nice and clean. It's easy to read. So we have our second part of the map. This is the map title and the map key. Going on to our next part. This is the same thing as the map key. This is a legend. You can see me down there. I'm a legend as well, but this is a different type of legend. This is where a map key is just referred to as a legend. I don't know if we can see it. Let me see if I can do this. My family is actually from Scotland. I have a map of where my family is from. It's an antique map. You can kind of see it behind me. So, and if you, it's a little bit difficult to see, but up toward the top, there is the legend. Um, Older maps tend to call it a legend. Newer maps tend to call it a map key. All right. So they are the same thing. So we don't have a new part. We still have two parts. We have the title so far. We have the map key. All right. We are going back to our slideshow. Our next part, this is the scale. I wasn't always a teacher. I started working out for a business. I worked in a skyscraper, and every week during that job, we had to do something, depending on what division you were in. Some divisions fed the homeless. Some divisions they like picked up trash around a certain street. So we all had to do community service. For me, my community service was I had to read to second graders. And all the people that I worked with hated this. It was always the worst time. We always had lots of work. But the first time that I did it, we came out of this big building, we get into a van, we drive to this elementary school. I didn't want to do it. I hadn't worked around kids. I wasn't really excited. But I walked down to this room, walk in. I've got all of these little second graders looking at me. The teacher was excited because she doesn't have to do anything. She gets to just have me read for 20 or 30 minutes and she gets a break. I sat in this little tiny chair and I had all the kids sitting around me. And I remember the book she gave me. It said, "What is an island?" So I started to read the book, and then I told the kids like halfway through that my family is from an island and they have a monster there. And the kids wanted to know about the monster, and I told them it was the Loch Ness monster. And my family lived right near the lake. They never saw it, but it's supposed to be there. And the kids got all excited. And I told lots of little stories, and we looked at the pictures. And then one kid raised his hand and says, "I have an island in my backyard." And like, I didn't know how to handle kids there. So I'm thinking, "Oh, you're a liar. You don't have an island in your backyard." But at any rate, moving along, I finished the book and I was super excited. I went back to my job. I called that teacher that evening, which I think she thought was weird. I said, "What book am I reading next week?" And she said, "I'm not sure." And she said, "How about what is a safari?" So I said, "Fine, can I come pick that book up so I can study it?" And she's like, "It's written on a second grade level. It's not really something you'd have to study." I said, "No, no, no. I kind of want to plan things out." So I go back to the school that evening. I get that book. And the next week that we have to drive to this school to read to the kids, all the guys are waiting downstairs. They're waiting by the van. And I came out and I had changed. I had on a safari shirt, had on safari pants, the big socks. I had on this massive safari helmet. I had some stuffed animals. I had a stuffed giraffe. I had a stuffed lion. And the guys just looked at me like I was crazy, which is probably true. We get in the van. I go to the school. I get to my classroom. We open the door. The kids are all excited. They want to play with the stuffed animals. I make the stuffed animal noises. I make the noise of a lion. The kids asked me to make the noise of a giraffe, and I had no idea what the giraffe sound makes. So I just made something up. I was like, "Ee," like that. And I'm sure the kids went home and like, "Oh, we learned what a giraffe sound makes." I just totally made it up. So at any rate, I have this whole story about a safari. We read through the book. It's super exciting. The island kid's not lying about having an island anymore. Everything's going well. Now, I had a map in the front of the classroom that showed all the major safaris in Africa. And by the time I was finished, the kids were super excited. And I asked, "Who wants to go on a safari?" All of the kids said, "Me, me, 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 me," except for one kid. And I got so offended at this. I'm like, "You see, I'm wearing these nice safari pants. I just made a bunch of weird giraffe noises. Why are you not excited?" So the kid holds his hand up like this, almost like he's the kid from Stranger Things, like he's going to do some sort of spell or something. So at any rate, I'm like, "What's this kid doing?" It's starting to get weird. And he says, "I don't want to go on a safari because my hand is bigger than Africa." So he didn't understand that Africa is not the size of his hand. He didn't understand this part of the map. It's our third part. We have the title, we have the map key. He doesn't understand scale. You can't make a full-size map. It's impossible, really, to make a full-size map of anything. If we had a full-size map of North Carolina, people would be walking in North Carolina. So just map off of me. It would take up the whole place. It would cover everything. So in order to have a map, you have to shrink it down. But when you shrink things down, you have to tell people, here is how far I shrunk the map. So if we're looking at this one, I've blown the scale up just a little bit so that you can see it. But essentially, the scale says that about an inch would equal, let's see, 5 miles on this one. If we go over to this scale, it is saying about an inch would equal 200 miles. So a scale will tell us the distance or the size of a map. In other words, it's how far the map maker shrunk the map down to make it fit. If you don't understand like scale, let me see if I can help you out with this. Hot Wheels, the little toys that you play with when you're smaller, maybe you play with them when you're larger. I don't know. That's up to you. That's your business, kids. At any rate, Hot Wheels have a number marked on all packages. It says 1/64. That means that Hot Wheels took a real car and shrunk it down 64 times. In reverse, if I multiplied that car 64 times, it would be the size of the real car. So scale, that means how far did you shrink something? How far did you reduce it? And you have to let people know that. So we've got our third part of the map. First part is the title. Second part is the map key. Third part is the scale. Our next part is the compass rose. This tells the 4 cardinal directions. All right, so a compass rose. On this one, north is at the top. Your right hand will always be east when you look at a map. Your left hand will always be west. And the bottom will always be south. So I had a kid ask a question, thought it was one of the best questions that I've had asked. He said, Mr. Moorhead, if people always know that the north is at the top, south is at the bottom of a map, east is at the right, left is the west, why do we put this thing on there? And I said, what a beautiful question. There are a lot of maps where north is not at the top. If we go back to the time of Christopher Columbus and explorers, they almost always put east at the top, okay? They would put west at the bottom. That was the tradition for nearly 1,000+ years, that was the way that they set up a map. It's only somewhat recently that we started to put north at the top on most maps. But even then, we still don't put north on all maps at the top. I'm going to give you some examples. In your classroom, if you look around, there should be a red card or a green card. It's got a map on it. It's required to be up there. If it's not up there, somebody's got to put it up there. At any rate, this is a map of the school. At the very bottom, so I'm using my cursor, at the very bottom of these types of maps, they put the entrance. At the very top, they will put the exit or the back of the building. So if you're looking at that map, hopefully it's in there. If you're looking at the map, you will see that the gym is at the top and the front door is at the bottom. Okay, that's not true north. The wall with your smartboard is a little bit closer to where the north should be. The back wall of your room, the opposite of the smartboard, is a little bit closer to where south should be. So you can see that the directions are completely off. Here's another popular map where you can see north is not at the top. This is going to be a mall map. Now, mall maps are set differently depending on where you go in the mall. So the entrance of most all mall maps is going to be at the bottom. Even if I go in this way, you guys see this little arrow here? It means there's an entrance. Even if I go in that way, that map is going to show me at the bottom. Most maps will show the entrance as the bottom. It will show the farthest part of the building from where you are at the top. So mall maps are a popular map that they don't care about north. They just want to show you, here's where you came in, there's the back of the mall, here's the front of the mall, based on where you are. I'll give you another example. Subdivisions. Subdivisions have maps when they first originate. When people make the subdivision, they show here's the lands that we are selling. So if you live in Broadmoor, Adams Point, or that subdivision across the street, they've all had maps. The entrance is going to be at the bottom. The back part of the neighborhood will be at the top. It's how it's oriented. Same way with Disney World or Six Flags. Any of these theme parks, oftentimes you can get a map. They put the entrance at the bottom, the back of the park at the top. So if we're going backwards, not all compass roses, or excuse me, not all maps have north at the top. Now, our fifth part is like a 2-for-1. It's buy one, get one free. So we have the title, the map key or legend. That's the same thing. The third one is the scale that the kid didn't understand. Fourth one is the compass rose. Our fifth one goes around the compass rose. So if I have this compass rose, I actually have to put on there that north is at the top, east is at the right, west is at the left. Now, if I put this onto our school map, it would be different. North would be over here, south would be over there. Okay, east here, west there. So again, if I'm going to put this on a map, I have to make sure I've got the directions correct based on how I have set my map up. So one more time in review, we have a map title. It tells us the name. We have the map key, also known as a legend. It tells what the symbols on a map mean. It's designed to keep the map clean. Our next one is the scale. That tells us how far we shrunk the map down. In other words, size or distance. Our next one is the compass rose. It looks like a cross. So you can see it there. This one looks like a cross and a star. And then our final one goes with the compass rose. That's the 4 cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. And I'll throw this in here. When we say cardinal, we think bird. But 1,000+ years ago, the word cardinal just meant important. So people use that word to say important. These are the 4 most important directions. Now, what you are going to do when I am finished talking, you're going to go into Google Classroom. I'm going to have this slideshow. You're going to write the notes. Shocked at the number of kids that don't know what the notes are. The 5 parts of the map are the title. So you're going to get out a blank sheet of paper, write 5 parts of the map at the top. Then you would write map title, map name tells what a map is. My kids, when I taught this, they said, oh, do I have to write this? This is a picture. You don't have to write a picture. That's called drawing. All right. So we don't have to write anything up here except for map title. In other words, it's the thing that I typed. Here we would write map key and tell what the symbols are. Map key is also called a legend, and I'm moving. Scale, it tells the size or distance on a map. I would write that. Compass rose tells the 4 cardinal directions, and 4 cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. Now, when you're finished with this, again, this slideshow will be in Google Classroom. I need you to copy those notes. There are going to be 2 other activities in there, so look for those. All right, guys, thank you for paying attention, and I will be back with you tomorrow.